good to go.
So we are live.
Yes.
All right. I'm looking for Ben Stapleton. You know, I think I want to give it a minute so that more than just us are in the room. So the think about the being this, you know, this time of day. I think there have been some shifts. Some things have gone long. Is that correct, Debbie?
Yes.
Okay.
Things have extended over a little bit.
Got it. Okay. And Andrew, and so yes, the order of pitches will be the list. Can you see the list above, or do you not see it when you come in right behind the list being posted? Probably not. But yes, it'll be order of pitches. So for you guys, that would be number 6. And Ben is here. Says he's in. Anyone have an icebreaker before we start? I have a good one if we want to go around the room and have some activity going on. I think it's a good one. I mean, maybe that's not the way to sell it. It's fun for us in this crowd to say, what is a thing you do, maybe on a daily, at least a weekly basis, that is not exactly green or sustainable? Anyone want to take that one? You want me to give it? I can give examples. Yeah. Gas fireplaces in Los Angeles. That's one, and I have one because we're not allowed to have wood. So if you want a fireplace, I guess it needs to be gas, or I guess we're moving towards LED. You know, so that's kind of a bummer. And for my Canadian friends, you're like, why do you need a fireplace?
I got one. Oh, my parents do.
Why do we need it when it's, you know, it's 72 and sunny?
Yeah,
but
in LA.
Yeah.
Although I think this is one of the weird days where it's actually warmer in Ontario than it is in LA.
Really? I've got 71
like
outside my door.
Almost 90 here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, keep that, will you?
Oh,
Ben, what's your icebreaker? Are you able to share something not as green or sustainable as you'd like to admit?
Wow, I just came in at an awkward time coming into this event. I should have just waited like 30 more seconds and I would have been good.
You know,
is this like sustainability confessions? Is that what this is? Of like things?
You know, I mentioned a gas fireplace is one of my.
You know, my confession is I don't have an EV still, and I was actually going to get one right before the pandemic hit, and I don't have a car payment right now either, and so I was like, why buy a new car? But I've been kind of waiting. I do have a charger that's been put in. I have a plug because I put in solar on my house and got the plug put in at the same time, but I don't have an EV yet. And that's my guilty guy who works in sustainability confession. And I'm excited to get one soon.
Excellent. Then I want to give you my EV story, and then we'll get underway here. And I do this because it's like, if you really want some insight into my marriage, I drive a black Jeep Wrangler 4x4, you know, because it gets me out in the places I want to go. And there's just not an EV that I would take out into the woods properly. So I have a black Jeep, gas, and my wife has a white Tesla. So read into that whatever you want. But it's an interesting.
I'm adding myself to the F-150 Ford Lightning list. I've always wanted my next car to be a truck, and I've just been kind of waiting. The electric truck is here. So I think
I signed
Time
up
is
for
now,
the
Ben.
list too.
Time is now.
Are you already on it? I haven't done it yet. Does this mean I'm like horribly late?
Oh yeah, no, I'm on it already. I'm on
Oh
it
man,
already.
you beat me, Mike. You beat me.
I thought California was supposed to be the progressive one.
All right, well, maybe we'll get underway, and that'll save some of you from having to admit those things. Although I might pepper it in later in the session. I think we're gonna, Ben. I know that around the horn we probably have some sessions have run a little bit long, and so some people will be in and out and trickle in. But I do want to remind you all, with your permission, we are recording. But part of why we're recording is because this will be shared at a later date with a lot of the audience that. We've all been in the Zoom zone for, a good over a year now. And a lot of people will intend to watch these things at a later date. And so they will have the opportunity. So let's continue on. We'll see what kind of audience we get today, but you will get additional audience at a later date that comes back to watch this. So I want to mention that. And with that, I'll actually kick it to Ben for some opening thoughts, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Colin. Sorry, the gardener started up somewhere across the street right when I started speaking. But I think just the biggest thing for us here, at the Net Zero Accelerators, we started this program 3 years ago to really help create an innovation community around buildings and real estate here in the greater LA region. I think we've done that over the past few years, and I'm really excited to get to know our 2021 cohort even better. I know we had a little bit of time together earlier this week, but this is our opportunity to really debut you to our community, and just looking forward to working with you over the months to come. I'm excited to hear from the companies and learn a little more about your technologies and your solutions today. So I'd say let's kick it off.
All right, let's
Thanks,
do
man.
it. So here we go.
Awesome. So I'm Zach Wayman on the Clean Robotics team. I'm here to talk to you guys today about TrashBot. TrashBot's a waste station. It's kind of reinventing the way we think about trash and the way that visitors at facilities dispose of it. So normally we're usually trying to figure out where our coffee cup should go in the multi-stream container. And what TrashBot does is just really simplifies that process by robotically sorting the items of waste as they're deposited. It's pretty simple, works just like every other waste receptacle, where you just approach the unit and deposit the item on either side. At which point the sensing chamber identifies it both visually and based on weight data, which allows us to identify contaminants. And then once it's identified, it's just sorted into the proper bin below. TrashBot also does some pretty cool things as far as collecting data along the way. So we have tons of analytics, everything from the fullness of the different streams of the bins, to diversion rate tracking over time, cost projections, exportable CSVs, and then can get even more granular looking at the specific number of items deposited and whether they're compostable or recyclable. And then with this data, we can do a lot of cool things around educational strategies, really just kind of making things more engaging and interesting for the public, as well as specifically addressing the recycling and solid waste challenges that facilities facing. And here's a quick example for water bottles. Here you can see in 2 years, TrashBot sorted 20,000 items with 90% accuracy, diverted about 1,150 additional pounds of recyclables, as well as offsetting 5 tons of carbon dioxide. And we also have a version called TrashBot Zero, where we're managing 3 to 4 streams of waste. So that's anything from compostables, recycling, and landfill to dry waste, wet waste, and incinerables and other markets. And we have a few different sizes and shapes depending on the needs of the facility. Then TrashBots are more often than not placed in high traffic areas like airports, convention centers, and other places where we just have a large number of people kind of gathering that aren't from that area. That due to the complexity of recycling rules, we find that it's almost impossible for someone from Pittsburgh to recycle well in Los Angeles or vice versa. Yeah, that's about it. Anyone have any questions?
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Have you at some point visited a landfill and just seen just mountains of trash?
Yeah. Yeah, that I know whenever we were first starting the company, we toured a lot of material recovery facilities and we're just astonished at the sheer scale and magnitude of it. That's kind of what led us to thinking that, we really need to start sorting at the source as opposed to waiting till things get there.
Yeah, I mentioned because it's interesting to think about what gets you into like this business, like just seeing the scale of it and really having it maybe just almost viscerally, command you, bring you into action. Did you have a moment where you really just said, I've got to solve for this?
Yeah, I think both of our founders definitely had that moment. We're always super adamant recyclers, always tried to stay up on the rules, but we're traveling and in a Whole Foods at one point, and just genuinely we're well researched but had no idea where their items should actually go. And it just came to the point where they realized that being solid waste experts, not knowing where things could go, the public almost, it's an impossible task and an impossible ask for them to be that educated or get that educated every time they travel.
Got it. And is this, so you mentioned AI, is this a learning machine? Does it figure things out as it goes or?
Yeah. So actually, whenever we deploy in international markets, we start at about 75% accuracy. But as we see more items, the accuracy increases and we're able to achieve up to 95%. So yeah, definitely needs to learn occasionally whenever you start really getting into places where, it has things it's never seen before, like noodle containers or other, things specific to that country.
Interesting. Does anyone have one question from the group for Zach? Don't be bashful.
It's Friday.
I got one. This is Dave.
Hey, Dave.
What happens when there's either food or beverage inside of the container? So something that's recyclable, but it's got something like a food or some kind of residual in it.
Yeah, that's a great question. So whenever we're making the classification, we're also taking into account the weight data. So we're able to tell that, that water bottle isn't quite as light as it should be, or that plastic food container, for instance. So by default, we're diverting that waste to landfill, just kind of keeping the recycling stream clean. But we are generating a lot of data and reports on those contaminants so that we can address those via educational campaigns on the monitor. That we find it's a lot more effective to let people know how they can be a better recycler than telling them they're wrong.
Awesome. Thank you. Great work. Keep up the great work.
Yeah, thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you, Zach.
Yep.
Patrick, are you out there? There he is. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Also on this call,
Is Sonny with us?
and also on this call is Ann Davlin. Happy to answer any questions. I'll play this.
Fantastic.
Hello, welcome to our presentation. My name is Sunny Sanwar. I'm the founder and CEO at Dynamics, where we create decarbonization as a service, our product that turns net zero commitments across assets into data-backed project opportunities. Despite net zero goals being set frequently all over the world and the US, organizations continue to struggle to go net zero. Despite tremendous opportunities in getting there, data continues to be the bottleneck. Current processes for net zero analysis across sectors such as residential, commercial, industrial, transportation, and power sectors are ad hoc spreadsheets that are patched together. With Dynamics, we've really created a solution from ground up, enabling each jurisdiction, portfolio owner, asset manager, campus owners to set and meet their net zero targets in a very visible way. Our solution with our existing customers have at times reduced costs by almost more than 82%. It has improved the feedback loops between action and impact, and it has engaged upstream and downstream stakeholders for both data aggregation, analysis, calibration, and reporting. Das Engine is right-sizing solutions through our marketplace features, so each climate solution can reach folks who have set a net zero target and all of those deployments are testing if it's on track to set goals. Dynamics Decarbonization Service is a software product, and it is a very scalable model since we can do a single building to a set of buildings in a portfolio, set of buildings in an entire utility service territory, or a broader city that has set a community level net zero or climate target. We help municipalities, commercial, industrial, and institutional customers, and utilities to scale net zero together. With DAS, all of the entities involved can collaborate together on net zero targets. Here's an example. The city of Baltimore has set a goal, and Baltimore Gas and Electric, the local utility company, could help in understanding how they could help the city decarbonize the residential building footprint, the commercial stock, industrial facilities, and also EV transportations. There's another example in the Duke service territory, the town of Cary, North Carolina. Our model is very scalable, as in each city could be up and running in a matter of minutes, as are each set of buildings. We have even done university campuses and smaller sets of buildings. Come join us. We are looking forward to hearing from you.
I think, Colin, you're on mute. Oh, sweet.
I said in 2021 I wouldn't get that hashtag "you're on mute," but it continues to to chase me. I thought that was a 2020 thing. So excellent. That was a great compact 3 minutes. I got one question, and maybe Patrick, this is for you or Ann, or maybe I think you told a good story about Sonny if it's on his behalf. But how did this begin? What is the origin story of this one?
Yeah, Sonny was a serial entrepreneur. His first, he started after, he graduated from college. He worked in as a database administrator in a county and realized he wanted to get out of government work. So he founded his first company, which was battery storage. And he experienced a lot of pain selling to a lot of the same people he was, just working with. Simply because they had bespoke and siloed data. So, being a good engineer, after he sold his first company, he saw his next need, which was, how can I help my fellow compatriots in the energy and storage business help sell to cities with better data?
So he was addressing a pain point he felt, which is the classic entrepreneurial way, right?
Exactly. So far so good with with success. Others have joined us, and we've been going at it strong now for at least through the pandemic.
Fantastic. Might have been the best time or not the best time to grow a company, right?
That's been great. I mean, Ann is on the call, and she's our chief strategy officer, has loads of experience working in federal government, but yet I have yet to meet her in person.
Ann, are you there? You want to say hello?
Hello. Yes, that's true. We are. We've never met. Nor have I met Sonny. But I think it's a good time to be where we are because using this forum, you have an opportunity to talk to a lot more people. So that's been wonderful. This forum, of course, being Zoom when you are able to take yourself off mute, as I just had hesitation. So yeah.
Fantastic. Well, it'll be interesting to think about how we take these Zoom skills and preferences into the real world. But kind of like, I dictate a lot now. And so I'll be like, sometimes I'm in a real conversation. I start saying, well, if we go over there, comma, then what do we do next? Question mark. But that's, we're trying to maybe not do as much of that. So thank you both for that. And next, Jim, you're there. You're with us? I see you.
I am. Hello, everyone.
Fantastic.
Okay. How's that? Okay. Hi, everyone. Jim Brotherton. I'm the founder and CEO of H2Optimize. Although you can't see him with me, is one of my teammates, Sam Reed. He's here to help out in dire needs. We're here today to introduce to you Hydroid. And simply put, Hydroid is like the Nest thermostat of water meters. But what I actually like to say is it's the smartest water meter in the world. And so a little bit about us real quick. Our mission on our team is to stop water waste and to radically improve consumer participation in managing and conserving water. We're doing this by delivering better technology solutions like Hydroid. And what I mean by improved consumer participation is us as water consumers giving better tools so that we can do the right thing. And I believe if we have the right tools, we will do the right thing, which is do a better job of being stewards of our water. So a little bit of facts about water. So the EPA reports that households in the US waste over 1 trillion gallons of water each year through leaks. 40% of homeowners will suffer from water damage in any given year. And water is the second most frequent insurance claim. The third highest claim on average, over $10,000, is 5 times more likely than theft or 6 times more than fire. So it is a real problem. So where do we start on this? Well, we're looking at, basically micro cities like multifamily campuses and retail strip malls. They have a very similar problem or the same to the tune of 430 million gallons per day wasted. So what does it look like for these guys? They have real reasons, whether it's financial or marketability, sustainability, like consuming less water, which would lower their water bills, or if you're building green buildings, you're promoting clean building and smart home, aligning with your tenants through shared management and trust, and really something that's super important for us, which is actionable data. Now, there's all these hard costs are associated with it, but sometimes they're not related, or they don't see them and they're hidden costs, but they're true hard costs in solving these problems. So what's the solution? We've created Hydroid, the most advanced water meter submetering system for managing multifamily campuses and retail spaces where in the whole world. Anyway, we believe more sensors is better data. So we've loaded with a lot of sensors for correlative analysis, and better data is better analytics. Better analytics is actionable information, and it's important. So we have this really comprehensive reporting, alerts, and control. We give tenants the ability to manage their own water, and property managers this oversight ability. And what I mean by actionable data is we have flow visualizations. Flow visualization allows you to do leak tracing. So it's very important to you not just know that you have a leak, but how to solve it. So where would you put them? So you put them in every single unit, in shared amenities like clubhouses, fitness centers, irrigation, that kind of thing, and in commercial areas for sun metering, retail spaces, and things like restaurants. So something that I don't usually talk about, but I think it's really important, is studies show that when individually metered, tenants improve conservation up to 40%. So if given the right tools, we will do the right job. Leaks can cause health risks, from things like mold. And Hydroid can be used as a non-invasive monitoring for elderly and high-risk tenants in affordable housing communities. So it's just as important when water doesn't flow as when it does flow in those situations. So there's a lot of reasons why, to consider a smart water meter. And I'm opening it up for questions then.
So, a lot of times we look at real-time data and analytics for kind of dashboards on building systems, and not every time does it become clear that you really need real time. It seems in this case, real time is a real benefit, right?
Yeah, real time is critical, one, for customer engagement. So it makes it more enjoyable to do something with versus hidden algorithms that just do totalization. When you can start seeing flow signatures of what's using water, you get it. It's interesting how easy it is for people to identify what's using the water. And I can tell you a short story about where we've solved some really big problems for people through flow visualization where other meters wouldn't see or lead them to the problem.
Do you want to tell that story?
Yeah, yeah, happy to do it. So in Austin every year, the Austin American Statesman likes to present the top water wasters in the city. And so one of a friend of mine is a landscape architect, invited me to install hydroid behind the city meter because one of his customers had used over 1 million gallons of water. They traveled all the time, so they weren't aware of it. Within 3 days, we were able to find what it was, and that's because of flow visualization. We would see that the water would come on at night, starting around 8:30 or 9, and run for 6 hours at night, and then shut off all day long. And it did it 3 days in a row. And so through watching how that flowed, they said, well, that's not a toilet leaking. That's not irrigation. That is a systematic problem. What would refill automatically? Oh, it's our pool. We have a refill float on our pool. We have a pool leak. So we were able to go trace down the leak in the pool and solve that problem and get them off that embarrassing list that they were on. And so that's something that really helps with doing flow visualization, see how it works.
Fantastic. So like time of use.
Yeah.
So I'll ask one more question, and then this one you don't have to ask, but so you mentioned Austin, right?
Yeah.
Are you keeping Austin weird?
Maybe too weird, actually. Yeah, they've sent me down to San Marcos. So
okay, all right.
Yeah,
They ran you
there.
out of town.
That's right.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Jim.
All right, thank you, guys.
Todd, you're up.
All right. Well, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you guys for the opportunity to tell our story. Sharing screen now, and I will get some visualization going here, assuming my mouse works. So I am Todd. I'm the founder of Hyperborean. We are based in Wichita, Kansas. And the problem that we are working on is actually the almost unsustainable growth in the demand for power for air conditioning. To kind of put a figure to that statement, in the past 30 years, we've seen a 300% increase in power demand for air conditioning. And the forecast is in the next 20 years, we're going to see another 300%. It's a very difficult problem to get your hands around simply because it comes from so many different directions. There's industrial needs, there's residential uses, and in increasing amounts, it's just almost inconceivable to live without air conditioning in a lot of climates. We are focusing initially on kind of the industrial commercial markets, and specifically on the mobile telecom, cable, and rail industries. And we've chosen those with intention because they have a particular demand that is also mission critical for cooling. The building that you see on the left is a communication hut, basically, that houses a bunch of electronic equipment that's shown on the right. And that equipment has to be kept cool to operate. And it's also generating a ton of heat as it does its job. So you'll notice 4 air conditioning units hanging off that building. Tremendous amount of cost to that, as well as a need to control resiliency issues when the power goes out. That creates a lot of problems when you're that dependent on air conditioning. So this industry in particular is one that's near and dear to us. And I think it's one where we can really move the needle. They, as an industry, consume about 3% of the world's power. And a good chunk of that is actually for air conditioning. But beyond this industry, there are a lot of other industries, homes, businesses that are completely reliant on air conditioning. And what you typically find is that those air conditioning units are working the hardest during the middle of the day. If there are time of use rates in place for the utilities, you're also paying out the nose for the air conditioning during those times of day. So our technology is actually an air conditioning compressor that operates off of a source of heat rather than from electricity. And what we are doing for space cooling for buildings and homes, businesses, is to provide that heat using concentrated solar thermal input. So the unit that you see here is somewhat a typical air conditioning condenser unit that you would see outside a home or business. But rather than being powered by electricity, it's being powered by concentrated solar. The way that looks for our beachhead market is about a 2-year payback is really what we're shooting for on most of our installations. There's, of course, the cost for the equipment, the installation cost itself. There's currently a very generous solar investment tax credit that applies to the cost of the equipment, which reduces that in a helpful manner. Putting our customers typically at an all-in net cost of around $5,000. So by saving them $200 a month, we've given them a 2-year payback, which they think is a fairly reasonable thing. And with a 18-20-year lifespan of the product, that payback continues to build after the ROI continues to build after that initial payback is done. We are focused initially again on industrial commercial, but where we are actually ultimately going with this is to get other air conditioning companies involved, license the technology out so that they can create hybrid units that switch seamlessly back and forth between electrically powered operation and heat powered operation when the heat input is available. The idea is to move the needle as rapidly as we can and as in as many places as we can. So the time is now, and we're looking forward to getting some pilots out into the field and seeing the technology bloom from here.
Great, thank you. So I as you're talking, I was thinking, well, this is really going to make for some interesting conversations within the cohort at a later date. But then I thought, well, maybe we'll just do that right now, because I know there's a few people in the cohort that you're definitely going to have some deep dive conversations. Maybe I'll just I know that Jeff, this is a space that you know and love. If you want to comment, Philippe, maybe something regarding financing of ITC. That's interesting. You've got basically a solar credit here. Anyone else, or you guys want to chime in, and any questions on this one for Todd?
Yeah, it's Jeff here. Yeah, it's a fantastic idea. I mean, the idea of using something that's readily available when it's available is a really good one. So I think it's a great product, Todd, and congratulations on coming up with it. It's a great idea.
Thank you. It's in its current form, to your point, it's an incremental step change over the status quo. So when the sun is available, we're providing no cost off-grid cooling, and when it's not, it reverts back to pretty standard operations. So the more intentionally we put these into locations where they can really help and move the needle, I think the better our payback looks, and the better the story becomes. So not only is it a technology that is useful in a broad array of applications, it's one where put in the right locations can really have a very quick payback and then start making a significant difference.
Yeah, and if I could, just one further comment, perhaps coupling it with some form of storage so that you could span a longer period of time, like make it a little bit bigger when the sun is shining and store that cooling so that it can be utilized either when a cloud goes overhead or as night falls.
Yes, that's definitely on the to-do list. The nature of the design is such that it's got a significant solar thermal mass, or a significant thermal mass. So as we get a temporary cloud cover, we can keep producing cool for a fairly significant amount of time. And at some point, if that lingers too long, we're out of business. But typically, we've got a little bit of storage built in just by the nature of the design.
Great, thank you guys. This is good dialogue. Let's do more of this as we go along. I want to make a quick note that in our last cohort, we had a company called Robotic Lawn Care Systems, which was kind of like EVs for lawnmowers. And I'm realizing what I loved about that company. This isn't a pitch for them, but because now I've got weed eaters and things going on outside my window. This is Zoom. This is real world. So if you hear that, I will try to mute. But thank you, Todd, and Jeff. Thank you for joining in on that as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
So Dave,
I'm here.
you're there, and the floor is yours, my friend.
Awesome. Let's see. Can you see that okay? All right. Mic check, good? Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate it. My name is Dave Robow. I am the founder and CEO of National Energy. I will tell you, 20 years ago, seems like it was just yesterday, I was diving into my first dumpster But here I am 20 years later, coming at this, tackling this issue of garbage. And really what we do as a company is we implement technology to extract value from everyday garbage. I've been an environmental scientist for 2 decades now, really focused on changing the paradigm and how we view garbage instead of as an environmental liability, and rather turning it into a resource. We started the company really because we just saw that, you know, cities were just drowning in garbage. We're all contributing to this problem. On average, we generate about a ton of garbage per year. So there's a significant footprint to all the things that we do. The United States is the world's most wasteful society, and we just send millions of tons of garbage to the landfill every year. The entrepreneur in me saw this as an opportunity because garbage can be a feedstock if it's used appropriately. So these are my mortal enemy in life. Landfills are just something that pollute the land, air, and water resources. And the challenge with recycling, since China closed its doors, is that there's just a lot of contamination in the recycling stream. So leveraging these climate tech solutions, we're able to use mechanical sorting equipment to go through the garbage and separate it into basically 3 different categories. Things that are suitable to create energy, traditional recyclables that can go back into the circular economy, and then a small percentage of the material that really doesn't have a value that ends up going back into the landfill for now. And we do this by leveraging a lot of robotic technology, both on the front end of the process and on the back end. And the robots are very efficient, almost twice as efficient as their human counterparts, in being able to extract these materials with very little contamination. And what that does is it increases profits for these projects. So we'll develop these turnkey solutions as more cities look to reduce their emissions. The circular economy is something that we lean on pretty heavily. And then leveraging blockchain technology, we're actually able to work with companies to be able to certify all the material that they send us is actually being recycled. So California is a great market. There's a lot of biomass in general in the California market. So this is an area where we think we can add tremendous value. In Los Angeles alone, there's 3.4 million tons of biomass material that we could be putting to better use. So part of what we're doing under contract with the US Air Force is developing these waste-powered energy microgrids where we can take this biogenic material and then use it as a feedstock to produce electricity. So my team is super excited to be able to working with cities and counties all throughout the US. So as we say in the garbage business, we're at your disposal. Any questions for me?
I've got a question. Can you go back to the California state map?
Yeah.
And what are we seeing? My eye immediately went to, hey, these are better colors down south versus up north. What's the red? What's the blue? I don't have that.
Yeah, good question. Good question. So up towards the top, you'll see this red is being categorized as forest residuals. So these are just vegetative debris on the forest floor. So there's more forestry up north than there is in the southern part. In the southern part, there's more populous, there's more urban areas. So you'll see a lot of blues in there, which generally represent the municipal solid waste. Yeah, so all great feedstocks.
It doesn't mean we're better than them down here?
Well, that's a known fact that it's not shown here in this image.
Okay. That's a slide you didn't include in the deck?
I didn't, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. Any questions, comments? One from the group here. There's a trash joke here somewhere, at least, you know. Oh, Philippe has a question. Debbie, can you unmute Philippe?
All right, am I on? Yep. All right, so first of all, I got to give Dave, you know, the line of the day, which is, it seems like only 20 years ago I was diving into my first dumpster, which is kind of a very interesting perspective on one's career development. And notwithstanding the fact that Dave is addressing an absolutely enormous issue, which we're all excited to help him find a solution to, wanted to ask, do you have an application for what you're doing, Dave, at the commercial building level, either in, for example, hospital bio waste or, large restaurant outlets or whatever?
Hospitals are a little tricky because you got different regulations that govern biomedical waste and different things like that. At the restaurant level, there's an opportunity to do kind of district composting. Getting food out of the landfill is critically important because as that biogenic material decomposes, that's where we're releasing that methane into the environment. And then, food waste really should be put to better use. Composting is a good one. Where you have a high concentration of food producers or food waste producers, there's lots of opportunities there for sure.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you, Dave.
Cool. Thank you.
Good to see you back in your wine cellar.
Yeah, here I am. Thanks.
We're going to visit it one day. We're going to have a workshop there. Sue and Andrew, are you there?
Yes.
All right. Go for it.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here today. Kick it off. My name is Andrew Crawford. I am the co-founder, the CTO, and the resident plant whisperer here at Origin Air. With my co-founder here, Susan, who is our CEO. We are a Canadian clean tech company, and we're on a mission to create a paradigm shift in what it means to breathe safe, clean air. So our air supply is the most crucial natural resource that we depend on as humans. Right now, our world is shut down as COVID-19 has increased indoor air quality issues. In busy environments like airport terminals, indoor air quality is a crucial element to passengers and staff protection, as well as a key aspect of the airport passenger experience. In the case of airports, air pollution, when compared to measurements in cities, is up to 1,000 times higher due to the exhaust generated on the tarmac. Inside the airport, the indoor air quality worsens in food courts, lounges, and common areas. The necessity for air purifiers to supplement HVAC systems and to provide superior filtration is supported by the CEPA, the EPA, and the Harvard School of Public Health. I'm pleased to introduce to you the future of air purification, an autonomous net zero commercial air purifier that we like to call the Sentinel. The Sentinel design incorporates indoor air quality sensors and the Origin Air operating system and AI tech to target even the smallest particles and purify the indoor air. The enhanced plants inside the unit create a beautiful display that is as functional as it is aesthetic. Published scientific testing has concluded that our enhanced plants reduce concentrations of harmful pollutants, viruses, and known pathogens that cause illness and disease. We are entering the $11 billion smart air purifier market. Our revenue streams for the units themselves are generated from hardware subscriptions and maintenance contracts with our clients. Additional revenues are derived from digital billboard advertising opportunities. These revenues will be profit shares with our clients to cover operating expenses of the units. The units themselves will yield valuable indoor air quality data for firms seeking to improve staff performance, efficiency, and ESG ratings. In this global air purification market, Origin Air stands alone as the exclusive provider of a living, breathing, smart air purification solution. From lawyers, doctors, accountants, and engineers, we're an obsessive group passionate about creating buildings as alive and healthy as the people inside of them. Our stable of advisors runs the gamut from engineering, biotech, medicine, and clean technology startup founders. We are thrilled to be hosting an exclusive online launch event next month where our first 50 units will be deployed. Here we are, joining the 2021 cohort of the U.S. Green Building Council's Net Zero Accelerator in their mission to create healthy, sustainable buildings. We are absolutely excited to be a part of this journey. Please come find us at originair.com.
So thank you. My first question is, do you have good intellectual property protection? Do you have good attorneys?
Well, I'm a former lawyer. I practiced for 15 years, and then we have a 10-year exclusive license to globally distribute the patent pending enhanced plants. I actually was up last night reviewing our first in-house patent that's going for filing maybe today, but if not Monday. That's on one of the components of our biofilter, actually the component that cleans pathogens out of the air with UVC light. And we're currently just starting our second in-house patent on the actual biofilter.
Fantastic. And so nature's pretty smart, right?
Yes.
3.8 billion years of R&D gets you somewhere.
Wow, I've heard that somewhere before. It's fantastic. Can I quote that?
There's an entire the Biomimicry Institute has all kinds of slogans like that. They're a phenomenal institute.
Oh yeah, I can give you, if you like, failures are fossils. That's another good one.
Totally.
And life creates conditions conducive to life, which is another one that I think that we're all trying to do here.
Yeah.
So fantastic. Anyone in the room have a question, comment, or other biophilic response to this?
Your comment about life creating life is a good one, because whenever I would engage people with my living well company and they think, oh, I'm a black thumb, all my plants die in my office. And you'd be nice to them, but then you start to ask yourself, if every single plant in this office is dying, what does that tell you about this office? Like, there might be some life lessons here that you should glean from this experience with your plants.
Andrew,
I think there's a time where you need
I got a question.
Go ahead, Philippe.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was talking to Fern, so that's not as important as what you're about to say.
Yeah, hopefully. Andrew, I've got a question coming from the financing side of things. One of the lessons I've learned in many years of being involved in this battle is that it's really great to get people behind you, potential clients behind you on the net zero agenda. They always come back to, obviously, the cash flow question. How do you battle that when you're looking at priorities of investments?
I'm going to start this one and then let him finish. But Andrew is kind of, we say he's the kite and I hold the string, but he comes out with like the incredible ideas. So sometime in December, he just couldn't sleep for about 3 nights. And he's like, I'm just thinking, I have this idea, it has to come out. So we've added on.
So I call it the bio billboard, because where the outbound clean air hits, there's a 5-foot by 2-foot digital 4K screen that, when deployed in malls and airports, will be selling BMWs, Perriers, and whatever at digital marketing revenue markups to derive that revenue stream you need. Because you're right, you'll always get to that 9/10 of the deal, and all the feel good stuff goes out of the thing, and they look at the line item. This throws that over the top and makes it quite a lucrative enterprise for the public facing deployments of this machines, which is where we want to be anyways, because it's a more meaningful deployment when it's in public spaces.
Yeah, we're sharing the ad revenue 3 ways. So the incumbent advertiser in the space will have their share. Our client will actually be making money over and above the lease payments. So it's actually a revenue generator for our clients.
This is a biodiversified business model, revenue model.
We
Cool.
say we say we are an advertising company. We're kind of like the Trojan horse, but we're not going to jump out and kill you. We're actually going to clean your air.
Yeah, let's not jump into that. That's one of the missions of this accelerator, is not to jump in and kill anybody, just in case.
Bad for
Yeah,
business.
we're going to make it good.
Maybe I should have put that at the front. Ben, you were gonna, okay. So actually, Philippe, are you still unmuted? Because I believe the floor can be yours.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Yeah, it's great to follow that awesome team. Okay, share screen, and share screen we are. And let's put it into presentation. All right, everything ready to go?
Ready to go.
Okay, I've got my, for those of you who are not part of this cohort or listening in, Ben and Colin just whipped us into shape yesterday, about 3 minutes. So I got my timer here, and I'm going to start it right now and see how I do. My name is Philippe Hartley. I am the founder and managing director of pacefy.com. We make your buildings happy. How do we make your buildings happy? We actually provide long-term financing to install the very things that you're seeing presented today that help you get to a net zero building ownership. And one of the things that makes our raison d'etre so critical is this statistic. The majority of buildings in America are actually smaller than you think. If we are to get to net zero, we're going to have to be able to do a lot of small projects by bankers' point of view. The majority of improvements in America will be less than $1 million. Well, that's a problem only because the vast majority of funders interested in doing building improvements today are interested in above $1 million projects. So the rarefied group of people that are and funders that are interested in doing these kinds of projects are few and far between. It's hard to find them, etc. So our objective at PACEFI is to bridge the gap, if you will, between the objective of the project manager and getting to the financing necessary to reach the goal. We do this through an interface that's quite easy to use. Essentially, the user will simply input an address and qualify their project. In this particular case, it's eligible for the kind of financing that we provide. As the project is being built, our database essentially is crunching numbers and figuring out what program this project fits into and what product, what funder product is best suited to this specific program. We're amassing wherever we can pre-underwriting guidelines to make sure that the project meets those particular funders' objectives. And finally, we see if there's a need for a tax partner in the case of nonprofits, for example, doing solar. We offer 3 options at the end, somewhere between 2 and 5, and every option presents its own terms, its own financing. We obviously tell you a little bit about the PACE program itself and its attributes and about the funder. We give you a breakdown of the amortization and essentially present an application to you for the funding that you desire. So I think we fulfill our objective of bridging the gap between a hope and an objective of reaching a net zero building standard and finding your financing. We're here basically to engage with all of you and talk about how this tool, which we are soft launching this very weekend in California, all right, is applicable to you. And so we want to engage. We thank you for listening. Ciao.
Thank you, Philippe. So kind of to pair that back to you, because I know that part of the challenge, and let me know if this is right, is a lot of people are confused as to what their funding options are, confused as to how these things work. But ultimately, isn't it just about making sure that they've got they can make easy decisions on how to go about this? So you're matchmaking in that regard?
Yeah, we're essentially very much like a lending tree for building improvement. With the only differentiation, just like lending tree, we're paid by the funders. But the only differentiation is lending tree has a slightly different revenue model in that the funders reveal themselves. In our case, because funders are very, very nervous in this early stage to step out and be seen when they build on a project, we're doing it entirely anonymously. All funders can build products and experiment with products and try to attract a particular type of marketplace. So they can anonymously put out a product, for example, if they're interested in funding golf courses or churches or a particular type of urban ag business, or they want to try a rate or a term or whatever it is. So it's an engine that gives a lot of flexibility and liberty to funders, but also provides a very fast return to the users.
And it's good for upgrading, let's say, building systems like retrofits. So we got a few people in the room, doing that type of work.
It's all about that. It's about taking existing buildings and making them better buildings to be in, whatever the needs are, whether it's, to take care of the drafty windows, put a reflective roof on, put solar and batteries, deal with the water issues like many of our colleagues are addressing. Even in California, making sure that it's seismic ready. So basically anything that makes a building better, which used to be our logo, but now the US Department of Energy has taken it. So we're going with happy.
I mean, who can argue with happy? I'm good with happy.
Exactly.
Anyone else? Anyone want to debate whether it should be happy?
Yeah, we'll take that.
Philippe, I want to take a word that you mentioned, which is seismic. And I'm going to knock on wood, I guess, because I am in LA. A lot of us are in LA, but I want to actually use this to transition to our colleagues at Peak Power. And thank you for what you presented there, and also thank you for your contributions in the earlier discussion. But I want to mention seismic because the first time I flew into Toronto,
You got it. Soft team.
And Mike, I had mentioned this to you. I thought, wow, there are a lot of glass buildings here, and we don't have as many glass buildings. And I know there's some thermal challenges probably with that, but I thought, with our seismic, the first thing I thought was, wow, there'd be a lot of glass falling if we had.
Although, I'll say it's funny because of all the skyscrapers coming up and the wind patterns not being like, it's the wind patterns at the sky level are changing so rapidly. We actually did have some glasses falling off. So,
oh boy,
yeah.
So with that, let's. I'm trying to think of some sort of glass transition or joke, or maybe we just jump in. But Mike, you've got the floor.
Absolutely, sounds good. All right, let me just make sure I got the screen share going there. And
Mike, before you do, I also want to just mention that you were in, and I think I saw Patrick. Are you here?
Oh, Patrick here. Excellent.
Patrick's here. Not to put you on the spot, but so Peak Power was in our SoCal Clean Tech Express program, sort of a mini cohort of 3 Canadian companies with the Consulate General of Canada, and Patrick Corsell is in our room right now, and Peak decided to say, hey, let's extend the relationship, let's go a little further, and applied to the accelerator, and here we are. So I just want to mention that we have a great relationship with the Canadian consulate, and we've got some great Canadians here, and here's one of them. So I'd say go for it.
Wonderful. All right, we'll go through this as quickly as I can. But ultimately, yeah, I'm Mike, and here to tell you a little bit more about how Peak is transforming buildings into active grid participants. And of course, what that means. So really, Peak, obviously Canadian clean tech company, and really what we are is a holistic control platform that helps buildings manage energy and emissions through building insights, electric vehicle charging management, and also batteries. Really, these are all connected through the building with all of these resources connected behind the meter. And I'm going to run through what each of these does individually, but then really show you how when combining all 3 of these is really where our platform shines. So our Building Insights platform, quite simply, IoT-based product that can be installed in a matter of days to digitize any building, regardless of its age. And really what we did for one of our customers that had a 50-year-old commercial space is we helped them save $65,000 in year 1 after installation, helped them save 18.5 tons on CO2 emissions, and helped them win some international sustainability awards, which isn't too shabby for a 50-year-old building. Next, I'm going to shift to the electric vehicle side, where we have something quite unique in downtown Toronto, where we have 21 electric vehicles connected to 21 chargers. And what these vehicles are doing is they're actually acting as mobile batteries on wheels, where we forecast the behavior of the grid and we actually generate revenue for the building and also for the electric car. Think about it as a market-based incentive or revenue stream that electric vehicles can access that combustion cars simply can't. If you think to the Ford F-150 launch the other day and the use case around vehicle to home and resiliency, it's something similar but slightly different, but because we're not actually taking the building offline or off the grid, but we're providing it with those services. Lastly, in California, we have what we believe to be one of the first through the meter projects in Kearney Mesa. And what this means is we're not only managing the building's energy load through our optimization software, but we're also participating in Cal ISO markets such as frequency regulation and resource adequacy, which is really a complex optimization, but maximizes the value that the battery and, of course, the facility owner can generate from this and the environmental impact. So what does this look like altogether? Well, in Toronto, where we have the most buildings, we took 8 of them, which each had a combination of buildings, batteries, and EVs, and responded to a demand response signal, i.e. the grid didn't have enough generation capacity, so we responded with all of these resources. And what our software did in this case was co-optimize the behavioral demand response, batteries, and electric vehicles to provide a steady signal and provide reliability to the grid. It's scalable, commercially ready, and ready to be deployed. So with that, join us in driving the energy future we all deserve. My colleagues Sharmila and Andy are on the app and in our booth, and look forward to your questions.
My first question is why Southern California?
Well, so one of the main areas that we see that we drive the most benefit in are dense urban regions. So for example, all of our projects are in Toronto, New York, and of course in California. But really through this example here, where we're able to take all of these resources within commercial buildings and provide the aggregate benefit, that's where we really shine. And that's where why we see ourselves in Southern California.
So it's not just for the sunshine.
Well, that too. The winters are pretty harsh here.
You got a couple teammates now in the LA area. Andy.
We do, yeah.
Fantastic. Any questions, comments for Mike? Any Canadians out there? I'm saying I don't understand anything. Rough Riders or Red Blacks or
Blue Jays or Raptors.
Does Philippe have a question? He's got his hand raised.
Philippe?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Thanks for that great presentation. Just wanted to ask whether you're bringing in some ESS solutions there. You're also addressing demand issues. Do you see yourself more as a software company primarily that is like farming out the hardware side? Where do you fit in the food chain?
Yeah, so excellent question. We've had to play in the hardware space just because that's the nature of the industry, but primarily we're software first. And yes, there are a lot of capital projects, but how we mitigate that is, so with this battery, for instance, this was financed by actually a subsidiary of Mitsubishi Corporation. We have a partnership with them. We also have a partnership with Ontario Power Generation and Kruger Energy to basically become the end owners of these assets, and we simply become the controller and software at the end of the day. And similar for the IoT-based platform, I mean, the capital cost isn't really that high, but through sort of our commercial model, we're able to pay for that on its own without third-party financing.
Right. So the software, what is the relationship in that project, for example, between the software value and the hardware value and what you're selling?
Right. So for the battery energy storage system, really what we're doing is think of the battery. I mean, this is kind of a weird analogy because we do use cars as mobile batteries, but think of the battery as the car and Peak Power's software as a sort of gear shift to tell it when to go or not, to really maximize the impact of the discharge and charging. And really where our sauce is we can predict the behavior of the electricity grid, predict the price, the GHG intensity, et cetera, and actually optimize either the behavior of the battery or tell a building owner or curtail a building load to actually optimize for a variety of parameters there. So that's really what we're doing.
Got it. Thanks. Congratulations, Mike. Good job.
Thanks.
So Mike, you want to hand it over to Julia, who was formerly from Saskatchewan?
Sounds good.
Julia, it's the floor is yours.
Perfect, thank you. All right, let me just do a screen share. All right, can everyone see?
Yes.
Perfect. Great. So hi, I'm Julia, founder of Spectral Materials. So we are a Toronto-based material science company, and the problem that we're really targeting with our thermally insulative film / material generally is building insulation and making the building envelope better. So as the weakest part of the building envelope, windows are, as we all know, responsible for a lot of heating and cooling energy, from 30%. Actually, in New York City, I believe there are a lot more, from 50 to 70%, as you can tell from different types of thermal imaging. And in recent years, newer and greener policies are being mandated to kind of reduce 50 to 80% of carbon emissions by 2050. And so to help address this, we have developed a product called Shield Guard, which is a transparent thermally insulative material that can improve the building envelope with a payback time of 3 to 5 years. So how it works is it maintains indoor warmth in the winter and indoor cool in the summer. Note that we deal directly with the conduction and convection insulation issue. So we're actually complementary to existing solar radiation films, low emissivity films, some great technologies that have been commercially available for decades. So these are 2 pictures of our material. You can see it demonstrates full transparency. And so Shield Guard works in complement to existing window panes and can also be applied as part of a retrofit glazing system. And also as part of a retrofit film. And so we deal with the 3 key features of transparency, hyperinsulation, and at a cost-effective rate. So we're not a traditional aerogel type of material. I would say we're aerogel inspired. A lot of our advisors who work in that space haven't really been able to get the cost down to enter this market previously. So in terms of how it works, we can demonstrate a sustained temperature difference between a window with our film coated on it versus without. And so we're really looking to improve the insulation effect that we can get by either retrofitting or having this within double glazed insulated glass units. So we're currently demonstrating with a real estate partner, or real estate investment trust partner, with the support of a window manufacturer. And our product is pilot ready, and we are looking for folks in building materials, windows, real estate operations, et cetera, to trial it. So happy to tell you more about its performance, benefits for buildings, and the logistics of the install. So feel free to reach out to me if you're interested.
Yeah, I have seen a lot. You've got a lot of data validating the solution so far, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Of course, you'll get more in a pilot sort of stage. So what's the ideal kind of pilot that you'd be looking for in terms of what are the parameters? What kind of category of pilot?
For sure. So we're looking for pilots, essentially like so the initial stages, people want to have to see the material first. Obviously, we're happy to provide all the data and results, but we're looking for partners who are owners of commercial real estate properties or in construction and materials that want to trial this on at least at the beginning a few of the windows. They can see and test out the temperature difference. They can use IR, thermometer, et cetera, to test it out. We can then work with you to translate that into what the energy savings and cost savings are. And then from there on, we can go into a full deployment.
Got it. And how did you get into Windows?
So this material originally was not developed for the Windows space. So we, my colleagues and I, we're developing aerogel-like materials since 2017. Originally, it was actually meant to be used for different types of packaging. However, the downstream process didn't work out with that. And at the same time, we were also looking into other industries, including this one. And the full transparency of the material actually lent itself really incredibly well to this space. And we've spoken with large glass manufacturers who've been looking into this space for a while. We're really looking to offer transparent insulation at a cost-effective rate.
Yeah, and I might add, if this is a correct asterisk on it, full transparency also doesn't compromise, daylighting and the well-being of being able to see through these things, right?
Correct.
Got it. Beautiful. So with that, thank you. And I think this is a great transition to Jeff regarding, heat and energy and exergy. Can we talk about exergy?
Well, we could, but the better transition is I was born in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. So let's go. Let's go with that
Hey.
one.
There we go. I mean, I should have put the flag back here, but next time.
I think Andrew had a question there. I saw his hand raise up. Andrew, do you want to ask Julia something? You're good? No?
So Jeff, you have the floor, and you and I have had some lengthy discussions about some amazingly detailed and complex solutions. So I know it'll be tough to put inside of 3 minutes, but eager to hear what you had to say.
Yeah, I really appreciate the feedback. Of course, I entered the last sort of discussion with 130 slides of all technical and spent the last few days trying to turn that into 8 slides of non-technical. So we'll see how that works out. And as we stated already, Jeff Weston from Thermonex, and this is a presentation on a patented invention we call the thermal gradient header, or the TGH. So, I mean, we all know a sustainable building must eliminate burning of, hang on one second here. Burning of fossil fuels while minimizing the consumption of electricity. We also know everyone can't just switch to electric heat, as it would cost too much and overload the electrical grid, which itself has carbon emissions. So something else is required. And the common belief is that gas and electricity are the only 2 resources available, but we see a third resource, and that is the thermal energy in and around the building itself. So by approaching the building as a thermal energy logic puzzle and focusing on balancing the energy flow in and out of a building by collecting and relocating energy or thermal energy from any and to any available sources, the need to create thermal energy from gas or electricity is minimized. So the buckets that you see on the screen filled with various levels of fluids represent the amount of thermal energy, and the fuller the bucket, the higher the temperature. So a typical building, energy inputs can be almost anything, like people going in the building, that's bringing thermal energy into the building. The electricity running lights and computers is bringing energy into a building. The sun shines on the building, and if it's summer, yes, you want to open the window if it's cool enough outside and get rid of the heat. But if it's winter, you actually want to let the building absorb that heat, collect it from that side of the building, and move it to the other side of the building. So the key is understanding that both heating and cooling occur every time thermal energy transfers from one thing to another, and that cooling is the collection, or can be the collection, of useful energy. And it's just a matter of doing that in a manner that solves the puzzle, the entire building puzzle, for the lowest capital cost. So the TGH itself is just a pipe. However, the patented way systems are configured turn the pipe into a smart hub for the transfer of thermal energy for both heating and cooling. The TGH, it can be any shape. As you can see, it can just be a straight pipe. It can be a serpentine. It can wrap around the top of a mechanical room, or in the picture at the bottom left, since that's an existing retrofit, it's quite a complicated configuration because it had to avoid all the other pipes that are in that mechanical room. But the real beauty is that the simple way the pipe automatically responds to varying building demands using the least amount of electricity. The heart of the system is a chiller, which is also the building's primary heater. In fact, if we were to call it a heater, it would be more accurate, because the amount of heat produced from a chiller is more than the amount of heat it collects as being a cooler. So what makes the chiller efficient is lowering the heating temperatures and raising the cooling temperatures. And that's what the TGH really does. It automatically optimizes the chiller performance. So, and when you do that, when you lower heating temperatures and raise cooling temperatures, and you optimize the building, heating and cooling temperatures overlap. So there's no reason to have a separate heating and cooling. Simply connect the chiller to the cool side and the warm side of the TGH and turn it on. If the heating and cooling loads are not being met, tell the chiller to run more. And if all the loads are being met, tell it to run less. So I came up with this quite a long time ago. I'm hoping to be an overnight success after 15 years of R&D, but basically the lessons we have learned over the first 10 years of doing this have resulted in now a standardized and simple solution that fits into any large building. So we no longer have to have a custom one-off control sequence. They all follow the same logic. And our hope is we'll be introducing it to the US market in fall of this year. A few examples of how effective the system can be, and I want to thank you for watching my presentations. If you have any questions and want to get into the other 130 slides, I'm hosting a Zoom Q&A session at 4:30 today.
Really great, Jeff. Thank you. I'll tell you that the slide that jumped out for me, can you go back to the puzzle slide?
I can, yeah.
I've seen this, and when we chatted previously, and you could probably talk for 5 or 6 hours maybe on this, but I want to bring it back up because I think it's fascinating to kind of look at how all the different things interplay, and it's also it's simple, but it's complex. And so I want to put it out to the room. Anybody have any thoughts or questions on what you're seeing here?
I just want to give a shout out for Jeff's video in his booth, which was amazing. That was one of the better videos in the whole conference. I don't know if that was your son, Jeff, or somebody explaining how this all works.
That is my son. And the reason this presentation is 3 minutes instead of 3 hours is because, he's now 20 and he helped me shorten it into 3 minutes. So.
Well, he was great in that video. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Feed that boy. He's earned it.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Any other questions?
It's like Felipe has a question. Yeah, his hand's up.
Yeah, thanks. Jeff, it's far beyond my ability to ask any engineering related question here. So I'm going to stick into the areas that I know. There's a movement towards passive building construction, at least in California and on the East Coast. Are you familiar with passive buildings?
You like passive house?
Passive house, for example.
Yeah. So the beauty of the TGH is as buildings get better, the temperature of the fluids we need to move around in them to manage the thermal energy get lower, which makes the TGH actually more effective than less effective. So, I mean, if you have a great building, it just makes everything smaller that connects to the TGH, but all larger buildings still need to move energy from one spot to another, and that's really what it does.
Got it. So that really went to the heart of my question, which is building efficiency your friend or your foe? And you're saying the more efficient the building, the better your solution is.
Yeah, because the more efficient the building, the better the envelope, the less energy you need, the lower the heating temperature can go and the higher the cooling temperature can go. So the closer temperatures get to the middle, the more effective and the more efficient the system is.
Great. Thank you. It's very exciting.
And just to sort of give you an idea, we've studied a brand new hospital in Vancouver, and at -4 Celsius is until we get below that, which is, I don't know, 25 or 6 degrees Fahrenheit, the hospital doesn't need to burn any fossil fuels.
Fantastic. Well, just remember, failures are fossils, and fossils can be fuels. I'm here all day, folks. Thank you, Jeff. That was actually fantastic. And you said you got a session at 4:30 available if anyone wants to drop in on you.
Yeah, I wasn't comfortable with the lack of detail in 3 minutes, so I booked a Zoom meeting if anybody wants to hear more. So
fantastic. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Mark.
All right, can you guys hear me? Okay, I think that was a yes from Colin, but you're also muted, so okay, great. All right, I'm Mark. I'm the CEO co-founder of Verdigris. I'm an engineer trained out of Stanford. I went through a couple startup companies before building this company, which really focuses on trying to transform energy, basically transform buildings into smarter entities where the electricity is well understood. Let me say why electricity? Well, it turns out 70% of the world's energy is in the form of electricity. It's consuming and it's actually being consumed a lot by buildings, and in small pockets, it's just very concentrated. It contributes to a lot to carbon pollution. That's why we're all here. And so what we really focus on is that this is all leading to very inefficient buildings. And there's something like 30% of the energy that's going into this electricity is being wasted. That's translating to about $200 billion a year of waste. Why that happens fundamentally has a lot to do with many different factors, but the crux of it is that buildings today run heavily on guesswork. And the reason why this happens is because the expertise and the skill set and all the capabilities required to do high performance energy management is quite difficult. So what we're trying to do at Verdigris is actually make it just really easy. So it's a simple paradigm where we apply a sensor technology, we attach it to the building, we enrich all of this information in the cloud with algorithms, and then we deliver these unique insights into these commercial facilities. The first step is really building on this sensor technology. So we have an accurate, small, non-intrusive sensor that clips into the device. It's all designed to be toolless. We've removed a lot of the cost structure out of these sensors so that they're very low cost. They install very quickly. They install also very scalably. So you can see compared to a standard installation of a sub-circuit meter, you can see ours by comparison installs very quickly. It scales up very quickly. And it takes typically between $3,000 to $5,000 to install a system in a system like ours in a panel, where a normal instrumentation would be like $10,000 to $20,000. And we do it in about an hour. It's all done with a lot of digital assistance, so it can be completed and then onboarded very quickly within days. The uniqueness of our solution really comes down to this combination of a hybrid hardware and software approach. And what we do is we take very high frequency signals from the sensors that we designed, and we've leveraged a unique feature inside electricity, which allows us to fingerprint the electric signals inside these that's being drawn from these panels. And that enables us to then provide very accurate AI assisted labeling on all of the data that's coming from these circuit panels. What do we do with all of that really accurate data? Well, one is it kind of cascades into a highly scalable data platform that we feed into two paths. One is this analytics software that companies can use to do their traditional energy management workflow. We also use this to feed into the control systems within the building that enable us to do things like automatically tune the building's building management system and reduce energy for them. We've obviously can't build every application under the sun, so we've made our entire platform an API-driven RESTful API integration, and it can be done. We can hook it into any kind of business intelligence software, any other tools that you need. And today we've been working on scaling our solution across many of the top brands in North America. We focus primarily on heavy industrial and commercial entities. They've taken our solution into 13 different countries. And the founding team, myself, John, and Thomas, we're all engineers by training. We all started working together in various technology companies, eventually came together to form Verdigris with the idea that we could bring our technology capabilities to do something differentiated for humanity. And we've been around since about 2012, which started off as a joint research project with NASA to develop this technology. Eventually, over time, we found our way towards commercial partnerships with large manufacturers and with large network telecom providers. And now we're working on scaling our solution up. And our company has been founded to date by some of the some well-known names in Silicon Valley, and some VCs were backed from Verizon Ventures and Capital Energy Ventures. And thank you. That's my presentation.
Thank you, Mark. So you're really looking to, you got some traction. You're well beyond prototype. You're commercializing, you're in 13 countries, and you got some good name clients there. So where do you see your biggest opportunities for acceleration? You know, how do you accelerate here?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. I think this goes to a theory I have, that there's these the building itself. If you think about what we've been doing to date in all these commercial and industrial buildings, it's really about taking that data layer up, making the building into a programmable abstraction. We've added on this capability that we can now interface this into their building management systems. I think the third layer of this is, what is that building? And I guess this is very, very similar in concept to what peak power, another cohort here, is thinking about. But the concept is, now we have this very large set of flexibly controllable buildings. And we have them distributed throughout North America. We have several in California, in New York. And what we'd really like to accelerate is, how do we take this valuable asset? We've been delivering value to our customers on the end-use customers, but how can this flexible power be an asset for the grid? And what we want to accelerate is a conversation with utilities or with, the ISOs, RTOs, to figure out how do we take what we can do with our customers, which is like real-time, 5-minute responsive, integrated capacity, and feed that back into the grid and give some value back to decarbonizing the grid.
Fantastic. And do you have a Canadian connection?
We do. Capital Energy Ventures, one of our largest outside investors, is a Canadian firm. And I say a lot.
Okay, great.
I actually know Rob, who leads that fund.
Oh, right. Awesome. Rob Giles, he's on our board.
Yeah.
What's this, Canadian money taking over the valley?
It's still $1, people. Okay. Well, this is great. So Daryl, do you want to take the baton here?
Yeah, I can do that for sure.
Thank you, Mark.
Yep.
Do you want to unshare a screen?
That's the baton. The unshare is the baton.
Is that what that is?
That's today's baton, which I believe is a French word, maybe not French Canadian. All right.
Right. All right, you guys can see the screen, I take it? All right. Good afternoon. My name is Daryl. I'm a co-founder of Vero Solutions, and I'm honored and proud to be part of this prestigious event. At Vero Solutions, our team embarked on a journey to decrease the ever-increasing cost of housing and to mitigate the environmental footprint of buildings. And we did this by developing a unique high-rise hybrid construction technology. Here's our team. Now, there have been significant improvements in construction technology in the areas of process efficiencies and improvements and materials composition, even for windows, it looks like today. But for the most part, conventional construction hasn't changed in centuries. It's inherently inefficient, routinely causes significant costs and scheduling overages, and produces excessive waste that burdens our landfills. Vero's hybrid construction technology combines proven benefits of conventional construction with that of modular technology to produce an unparalleled construction process. Don't be too scared about all the writing around it. This is a picture of our load-bearing volumetric steel modular boxes. They incorporate the building's structural concrete columns within the modular designs, removing the need for on-site formwork and shoring materials. This alone significantly reduces the labor and material costs of the building on site. Our load-bearing modules also work in tandem with the concrete to perform part of the structural integrity of the building, whereby reducing the amount of concrete required in the building by up to 35%. And you may be aware that concrete is one of the top greenhouse gas emitters in the world. Once the modules are completed in the interior to 90%, they are shipped to site. On site, the units are placed side by side using self-aligning pins for a perfect fit. Once the floor is level, concrete is poured across the top of the modules and into the prefabricated columns, tying the entire assembly system together, ready for the next floor. In this fashion, a 40-story building is erected in 40 weeks compared to years. While the next floor is being erected, the previous floor's final 10% is being completed, dramatically reducing the on-site construction time and labor requirements. In addition to the reduced concrete and energy consumption, combined with significant lower waste, as well as utilization of sustainable construction methods and recycled materials, our construction technology design reduces the environmental footprint of that building by over 70%. Varial is not a digital technology, it's not a software company, but a physical bricks and mortar construction process technology that actually builds the building in a socially responsible way, faster and for less money. Varial's digital disruptive technology is an international patent pending. We have a third-party structural and cost validation of up to 70 stories. Our hybrid technology can produce savings up to 35%, produce buildings up to 50% faster, and reduce the building footprint by over 70% compared to conventional construction. All Varial needs is a pilot project to show you how. Thank you, stay safe, and continued health and happiness. That's it.
Thank you. So I saw affordable housing in there. How would you address that more specifically? Because that's certainly a high priority in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and so we actually were involved in a study, a modular study with the mayor of San Francisco. Their cost per square foot of housing is roughly $1,000 a square foot, which is the highest in the world. And during that study, we were able to see that we could build their building for them twice as fast as normal conventional construction, and the cost per square foot was somewhere south of $200 a square foot. So if you could build buildings for cheaper, which is what our technology does, and get it up and running faster, you could really take homeless people off the street twice as fast as you could conventionally. And so our technology really does address both those, reducing the cost for the developer, owner, or government, and getting people off the street faster, obviously.
Love it. Ben, did you have a thought on that topic?
Yeah, I just agree with a lot of what was said. I mean, our cost to build affordable housing here are anything but affordable. We've had a number of conversations with city council districts here where, they've had mandates to build temporary housing. It's supposed to last 3 years, and it took 3 years to get temporary housing in place. So, we need better solutions on the technology side and frankly on the policy side, right? When it comes to construction, it's kind of the mix of the.
And oddly enough, we worked with a architect of San Diego on our original design, and we had it measured for seismic shear and gravity. And our building design with less concrete in it actually exceeds building code in San Francisco with a building sitting on the San Andreas fault. So our technology's been validated. We just need to find a developer who wants to build it now.
I have a somewhat niche question for you. My understanding with modular construction for the most part is that, and maybe this is just for homes, but it's permitted on a state level, and you have to do local foundation and utilities permitting, but the structure itself can be permitted on a state level. Is that same thing applicable to you?
Oh, 100%. Every state and city have different codes that we have to adhere to, whether it's fire or sound ratings. And again, our system is built with the flexibility to accommodate all different styles and structures and designs. So with modular, you're usually used to a square or rectangle building. Because of our design and incorporation of the concrete columns within the building itself, we can configure it no matter how the designer wants to have it look. We just move those columns around within the building, and the structural integrity of it is kept intact based on our designs of our modular boxes.
Very cool. We're going to find you that developer here in LA. That's going to be our
nice. Nice.
Great.
Okay,
Well,
so who's kicking me off the screen share?
How do we do that? So on the screen share, fantastic. So thank you. I'm trying to think of a Canadian transition here, and it's just we're getting late in it. So
there is a severe trend.
Yeah. So with that, it's Max and Andy, or Andy and Max. You guys are there?
Yep, I'm here. Everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. And everybody can see this okay?
See you just fine.
Okay, great. So we're Wind. We're an air quality startup located in Silicon Valley. And the kind of problem I want to talk to you today, obviously air quality is a big issue in general, but the one I want to address today for you guys is re-entry, right? So air quality is essentially the #1 issue for people trying to come back and enter the office. They essentially don't trust the office place. And I know a lot of people have put in protocols in place and they're going to fall back on, oh, we did these protocols. The problem is that those same people were telling them pre-COVID that their buildings were safe. And then COVID kind of revealed that there were a lot of issues in the buildings, right? Because they weren't dealing with COVID very well. So there's a lack of transparency and trust. And so we're here to help you deal with that via air quality. And the way we do that is through 2 products. One of them is our customizable IAQ service and monitoring. And then the other one is an optional purification. And the reason we kind of split that out is because some places already have purification in place. So if you do, that's fine. You can just use one or the other. If you don't have both, you can do either. You can do both. So some quick benefits of it. The main one I'm gonna focus on, like I said, is it's gonna provide peace of mind and transparency to occupants and guests. And it's gonna create some differentiation for your properties and to your employees and competitors. The other benefit is if you're a building, there's a huge benefit for this from an owner standpoint, because they actually have proven recently that the rents go up by about 4.4 to 7.7%, and they spend, it's going to vary depending on the market you're in, but they spend less time on the market. So there's definitely incentive from an ownership besides just bringing people back. So like I said, one of these things is accomplished through our air monitor. It's called the Wind Halo. It is the most comprehensive air monitor on the market. It monitors the main key metrics that you would be concerned about with COVID. For example, it has an indoor air health metric. You want PM 2.5, VOC, CO2, temperature and humidity, which are all the ones that you're really going to care about for disease transfer. And in general, it's just going to make sure everything is always safe. We also do a initial validation of the space. So we essentially have a validation program when you do these monitors, and it's a very easy 3-step process. It's 1, you do an initial validation after 24 hours. 2, we give you recommendations. And then 3, we work with you over time to continuously help you implement policies and create improvements across your property. The other thing that these are great for is they're very visible and they're very attractive looking. So we provide you the product itself, which is very attractive and draws attention to itself and can show people that it's safe. Physical displays, and then there's a digital dashboard that's optional, but if you'd like to put that up, that also can provide air quality data to customers and guests. There's also a dashboard and remote diagnostics, which is pretty par for the course. And the other thing we can do is work through your HVAC system and help you guys decrease energy spend. So especially right now, there's with local laws and COVID guidelines, people are essentially being asked to do a lot of flushing every night, running outside air in at like high speeds all the time at high rates. And so we can essentially work with you to bring that down and test and make sure that the air quality levels are staying safe while you do so. The other thing it does is we do work with all the major certifications. And then for the purification side of things, we have 2 types of purifiers. We have the large purifier, which you can put in a space, it'll clean 1,200 square feet. And as you can kind of just see benchmarking against a lot of the common purifiers you might see out on the marketplace, we do a lot more. The other thing is it does kill viruses. What happened was we put it in a room, and one room that was a control with nothing in it, one room with our thing in it, with our device in it, and it actually cleaned the air completely versus the other room where the 21% of the virus was still left. By the way, this is with H1N1, not COVID, so do you want to note that? And then this device specifically is actually just named the official purifier of Marriott. And then the second device is something that's very unique to us, actually. It's a personal purifier. And this is really great for placing in front of you at your desk at the office or like in the cafeteria or restaurant you're going to take it to. And this one also cleans a full spectrum. And this one actually just got named last week. We launched, we're the official purifier of Lyft for this one. So for our services, essentially why you would want to work with us over maybe another type of technology or product, monitor product, is the IAQ sensor itself, one, we make our own sensor, which means that in the future, you're going to see a lot of these really cool features that you're not going to see out of them because it's dependent upon you making your own sensor. One of them being Air ID, which is a form of speciation. The other one is just our team and company in general handles the whole solution and process. So the way a lot of people are treating this is the monitoring is the solution and then you're done, right? But that's actually not the way you should do things. Monitoring is literally just the first step. I'm sure if you talk to some of the other people that just talk, like Vertigris, and they mentioned sensors, monitoring just collects data. So if you stop there, you have a bunch of data, and then that's it. So we're going to help you walk through the whole entire process. And then the last thing is we obviously have these solutions that are going to work with you and help improve everything for you.
So your one of your clients is not the CDC. You didn't know the pandemic was coming, right? Because you seem pretty well positioned for indoor air quality.
No, that was a I mean, it was a well, I don't want to say welcome, but it definitely air quality companies, I think all across the board got a little lift from it. But then also we face the same challenges as everybody else in terms of supply chains and being separated and figuring out how to do things well, and having some of the stuff that we have right now, I'll be honest, like it would have moved faster if it weren't for COVID, right? Like we would have been announcing features 2-3 months ahead of time. So.
Got it. Fantastic. Philippe, you have a question. Or you have a hand.
I have both a hand and a question. Andy, really kind of, impressive progress that you've made. It's pretty amazing. For some reason, I think of you as the Sonos of air quality. Is that kind of a fair way of looking at you?
Yeah, I would say so. So I would say there's a little bit of a difference between us and Sonos in the fact that, so what I'm talking about right now is mostly our enterprise products, right? But to your point, we have an already successful consumer set of products that have been in Apple, QVC. And I think those products, that would be an accurate statement about them. Absolutely.
How much of the value proposition comes from the hardware sale versus the software sale?
So for us, the way we look at it is actually more the latter part. I mean, like I said, it's dependent upon the hardware, right? Because you do need to collect that data. So that is an important piece of it. But what we're kind of more concentrated on and what we want to focus on helping people is, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, is people stop at just collecting data. And that's not the way you're going to help people improve their spaces, right? So we're kind of more focused on that software and then data analysis part of it, where we can use our expertise, like our CTO came from NASA and working in sensors. And, we have a lot of smart people on our team that they can use their expertise and start applying this, right? And do predictive analytics and predictive machine learnings and things like that.
Good job.
Great question, Philippe. Thank you. That's a great question around Sonos. I've got Sonos around here, so you beat me to it, I guess. So that's great. Thank you, Andy. Vishwas, are you there?
Yeah.
Good to have you. A big part of the message there was I think we need to educate some of the consumers on what's out there and what's needed, and maybe you have some of that solution, right?
Yeah. Hey guys, Vishwas here, founder and CEO of Yellowton. We're based in the Bay Area. So our mission is to provide the tools and the information for consumers to start electrifying their homes, their transportation, so that we can all start fighting climate change and achieve those goals. I think most of us are aware that a lot of the emissions are coming from transportation, cars, from the built environment, through cooking, through your furnace, through water heating, natural gas, water heaters, all of that. So our goal is to, again, fuel switch all of this with electricity. We are a B2B2C model, so I'll talk about both the B and the C. So we'll start with the consumer. Here's a snapshot of today's consumer buying journey just for solar. As an example, the point I'm trying to make here is it's extremely frustrating for consumers today to understand and get information. They go through an emotional pain, which you can see on the y-axis, and a lot of time spent on the x-axis. And when you talk about things beyond solar, EVs, heat pumps, induction, that problem just gets, compounds. And so today's consumer is left in the state of confusion where they want to save money, they want to do the right thing for the environment, but they don't know what is the right information for them. What is the right incentive? How do they go about getting all of this? And so there is no nerd wallet or credit karma or betterment for the consumer today. It's all Costco, Sunrun, catching your name and harassing the homeowner kind of style that exists today. And now let's move on to the middle B in our business, which is utilities and businesses. Most utilities in California have the pressure from CPUC to start decarbonizing. They suck at consumer engagement. Utilities don't know how to engage with consumers. And we're seeing a lot more companies, Apple, Google, saying, hey, we need to be more sustainable. We need to be climate champions. So their sustainability managers are thinking of how we can start engaging with our employees. It's no longer enough that we have great campuses, but we need to do something different. So with that said, what Yellowton really focuses on is to provide these climate leading utilities, businesses with those capabilities to engage so that they can influence them towards making these changes, which is a behavioral change really. And then, so the consumers get the information, they are confident, the customer is able to make this influence the residents to take this next steps, and they are able to decarbonize the residential sector. So if we look at what the consumer gets today, is this is a snapshot of a personalized dashboard. So as a consumer, I can see what are my savings, what are my incentives, what are my carbon emissions for all these different technologies. I can start adding and removing and play. So for example, I can say I want an EV driving 15,000 miles, charging 80% of the home. The solar system is sized based on that specific need, based on my rate plan. It might be a time of use based on PG&E. So it does all the math behind the scenes for you and gets you that insight to say, oh, I could do this. And then you can actually take action through a marketplace. It'll act as it provides you notifications as well over time. So you get notified when you need to take action. On the flip side, for the customers, they get an analytics dashboard to better understand their customers, so they can kind of drive program participation and targeted marketing. Today we've been in commercial use more than 2 years. We have more than 3,000 users on the platform. We have few solar installer customers. We have Sonoma Clean Power as our first utility customer. It's already launched. We went into contract with Intuit software company, which is launching this out to their employees. And now we are going into contract with the city of Mountain View for their residents. So we're excited to be a part of this program because we want to make dent in Southern California and the LA region to talk with the CCAs, the progressive companies there. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. So quick question on your kind of your distribution model. So you're partly a white label and then also a platform play. Is that correct?
Yeah, the white label is a platform play. It resides on the customer's landing page with their branding, but it's powered by Yellowton.
Got it.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, I was saying from a monetization perspective, we charge a SaaS fee to the customer. And then on top of that, we'll make a lead generation fee on the marketplace.
So who's your primary target in that regard? Like who would a good pilot partner or next customer be?
Maybe SCE or the CCAs. I mean, there are 22, 23 CCAs now, I think, in California. So we've been talking to the ones here, but we have not started talking to the CCAs there. Yeah.
Got it. We're gonna have a good road ahead then. Thank you for that. So I'll just say, Grant, you are next, and if your name began with the number 0, you probably would have been first. Is that correct?
I think so. That probably makes sense, but it's okay. You promised next time that it'll be reversed, and I get to go first.
This is true. So we did alphabetical A to Z today, but next time will be Z to A. So Grant, bring us home.
Cool. And before I start, just awesome to hear about everybody's project. Everyone's working on fantastic things, and there's a lot of alignment between a lot of what everyone's doing and what we're doing. So I'm excited to have a number of awesome conversations with you all. But anyways, my name is Grant Gunnison. I'm the founder of Zero, a former general contractor, MIT, and also a NASA engineer. And at Zero, we're on a mission to empower building owners to make their buildings healthier, smarter, and zero emissions, just like so many of you guys. And what we're doing is taking a technology and data-centric approach to provide a low-cost and high-quality design solution so that we can really simplify the pre-construction process for deep energy retrofits. And maybe I'm preaching to the choir here, but the problem we're facing is huge. 40% of our emissions come from over 100 million buildings in the United States. It's a vast problem that's deeply ingrained in our infrastructure and just really challenging to overcome. And fortunately, cities and states, much of what we've heard today in some of this conference, people are driving aggressive change, and they're quickly forcing owners to get deeper and deeper into their buildings. But this is a massive headache for owners. Transforming buildings like this fossil fuel guzzler you got on the left-hand side into a zero carbon building on the right there really isn't easy. Retrofits are really complicated because for the most part, you're replacing pretty much every system in a building, replacing them with all electric equipment. And, then you're adding several new systems that didn't exist in the building before, and so that's really challenging. And because we're going so deep into the building, it requires pretty complex software to be able to get this done because every building is unique. The solution isn't the same from even one door to the next. And so the challenge then becomes, how do we get this done economically? Because today we don't really have cost-effective solutions to solve, at the building level. Owners really don't have a way to get that information easily. And so, especially for these smaller projects, like single-family, small multifamily buildings, architecture and engineering firms or energy consultants can charge up to 20% of the total project cost just to help a building owner figure out what to do. And so, because of that, the barrier to information is just so high that these projects just really don't get done, frankly. Okay, slides here. And so our mission is to make this really simple for building owners. What we're doing is reducing the design costs and solving that how-to problem by leveraging data about their buildings and automating what these expensive consultants do. We're looking at more options and strategies and products than any one reasonable design team could, so that we can utilize the synergies across all these building systems and materials and actually lower the project costs for these buildings. And what we're providing to people is really better information and faster than they've ever been able to get it, and more consistently across projects. But most importantly, we're doing it in a way that can scale, and actually give us a chance to retrofit all 100 million of those buildings, because today we don't really have those solutions. Most of the firms are hampered just by the business models that they have. And so what we're delivering to people is an integrated solution, like comprehensive view of what their building looks like and solution to get them to zero. With all the design and cost optimization legwork done already. And so we can just hand a building owner a design that's simple enough for them to understand, that they can trust to be the best to get them to the goal that they're trying to achieve with their building. And to get that done, I've assembled an awesome team, a bunch of folks over at MIT, and we're super excited really about the opportunity we have to transform the retrofit process and accelerate the decarbonization effort, much like all you guys have as well. So that's it. Kind of high in the clouds here, but happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Thank you, Grant. So what is your ideal pilot? I mean, where do you want to go at this point?
Yeah, so we're working with a couple of pretty large portfolio owners. We have a few different buildings that we're addressing with them right now, and developing our prototype through those efforts. So we're not quite at deployment, but we're definitely providing value to those folks, which is great. And we need more folks like that. So portfolio level owners are great for us because they got lots of buildings. That just narrows the customer engagement on our end.
Got it. What would you typically require from them in terms of, do you need like audited financials, or is it all about the physical space? What's the first step actually to getting on board with them?
Yeah, totally. So
energy use. Sorry, I'm just thinking of other things. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's a little out there. Yeah, so we send them a building matrix right now, and they fill that out and get us a whole bunch of information about their building. That's supplemented by a whole bunch of data that we pull from public data sources. There's lots of aggregators and whatnot. And then we also ask for utility data. So that can be just month data. It doesn't need to be like 15-minute interval or anything like that. And from that, we build a calibrated 3D model of their building and simulate 10,000, 100,000 different upgrade options to their building and provide them with really the best options to achieve what they're trying to do with their building.
So you could do like green button data for 12 months of utility bills, and that would get you going?
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Fantastic. Well, welcome. Well, we'll welcome you back at some point, right? Aren't you from this area?
Yeah, grew up in LA. That's where I ran our frameless construction business at one point. And I'm actually in Austin right now, but I live in Boston full time.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, thank you for bringing us home. We went from 0 to 100 and back to 0. And here we are, minutes shy of 4 o'clock, right on the money. So we can open up to a few questions if we like. If you need to go, you can go. I'm glad to hang out and chat a little bit, but I do want to thank everyone for attending today. We did record this. We will be able to provide this out, to you as well. But I'll tell you what I liked very much about this, which actually did not happen last year, was just the dialogue between you. And I think a large part of this I'm seeing is the community and the peer correspondence. And so to whatever degree we bonded today and had some good interaction, I'm really happy about it. And I hope you are as well. Thumbs up. Good. Any closing comments? Any bear hugs? Tree hugs? Canadian flags? All right.
I just want to, hey, this is Philippe Hart. I really need to reach out to all of our Canadian friends to please send Colin a new batch of Canadian jokes, because he's just running out. It's really abysmal.
Yeah, I can tell you, I get a little bit of a flack for my bad dad jokes, and I hashtag those, but my Canadian jokes are lacking. So I'm tapped out. You're right, Philippe. Room for improvement.
That was a loving way of saying that you did a great job actually hosting this, and thank you very much, Colin.
Thank you.
I echo that as well.
Thank you. Grant, you got a hand up?
Oh, I just wanted to say thanks for sending that info, everyone's contact I wanted to get, so I can email folks and whatnot as well.
Excellent.
I guess this is just URLs. If you could send out emails for folks, that would be awesome. I haven't gotten that for everybody else.
Yeah, we'll do that, and we'll kind of maybe like a contact list. And then there's also, if you've not joined the Slack channel, please do that as well, because then we can have some interaction there. And by the way, what it is it's a private Slack channel within the USGBC main Slack channel, which has a lot of our administrative and team conversations. So that's why there's no other real activity going on that you're missing out on. But I just thought it'd be a good place for us, that it's sort of an optional zone to have some back and forth. And so we'll see how that evolves.